Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I'd first like to thank my friend and colleague, the member for Mississauga East Cooksville, for bringing this bill before us today, because it is an important bill, and as the member for Bonavista, Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor had said, this is an international type of bill. It's not just a Canadian or a Polish or a Catholic bill, and I'd like to thank him for his comments because I really enjoyed what he had to say. And on communism, but first, I'd like to also thank, by the way, Mr. Chris Corwin-Kuczynski, a longtime former deputy city councillor, former deputy mayor, and retired honorary Navy captain, for his dedicated campaign to see this bill brought before Parliament. I would also like to thank Fathers Gil, Blazek, and Filas for their generous support and faith, and Ms. Danusha Gumieniec and Mike Lukatow for their dedication and assistance in making sure that this bill helped reach us here on the floor today. Here. And in a member from Bonavista, Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor's comments, he also talked about communism and the fall of communism and the ideas and why John Paul II was such a threat to totalitarianism. And that's because, Mr. Speaker, ideas are the enemy of tyrants. And in fact, Mikhail Gorbachev went on to say one other thing, which is remarkable, given that he was one of the main adversaries of John Paul and his mission to bring freedom and democracy to the earth. And that is, he said, quote, Pope John Paul II's devotion to his followers is a remarkable example to us all, unquote. Mr. Speaker, I fully support this bill and everything it represents, and in fact I'm the seconder of this bill and proud to be so. This bill isn't just about Blessed John Paul being Polish or Catholic, though there's no doubt there is special meaning for Poles especially of Canadian Poles of Polish heritage, and Catholics generally. It is truly about the inspiration that he left as his legacy to all peoples of all faiths, in all lands in the world, and in Canada. You know, Blessed John Paul stood for values that are shared by diverse peoples across this planet: justice, democracy, forgiveness. John Paul II held the value that all people are equal and should be free to practice whatever religion that they choose, no matter where they are in this world. And these values are not only Christian values, but they are shared by many, many religions around the world. And for Canadians, he practiced the values of freedom, democracy, and human rights the world over, and promoted that everywhere he went, Mr. Speaker. He wasn't just solely focused on a Catholic Church, but was also influential, as we've already discussed, on the world stage, building bridges between all faiths. And it was already remarked that when he visited Israel, he addressed them as my older brothers. That is absolutely significant and historic. He reached out to Eastern Orthodox Church, Muslim faiths. A goal he had was to form a coalition of faith. And when he visited the Umayyad Mosque, which was a former Christian church where John Paul the Baptist is believed to be interred, he made a speech calling for Muslims, Christians, and Jews to live together, Mr. Speaker. And as he continued to visit mosques and places of worship of many faiths around the world, he did so in order to reach out for understanding and to build those bridges between those faiths. And these are one of his major accomplishments, was, of course, inspiring that peaceful revolution in Europe, which resulted in the downfall of communism on that continent, and that began in his native Poland with the rise of the Solidarity trade movement. And it was through those words, "Be not afraid." Those were meaningful and impactful words. His uplifting words resulted in the human rights and freedom being brought to Poland and subsequently to now all former Iron Curtain countries that made up the Soviet bloc. He did this not with a sword, not with a rifle, but by using words and by using ideas, which again were the enemy of the tyrant. He did this simply because those who suffered through communism to imagine the changes that they wished to see that he promoted, and they did. By being not afraid, they dared to imagine and they dared to aspire. And it inspired those who had lost hope that they would never see political freedom in their lands, and they found hope. And through solidarity and through history will tell you what happened later on, communism fell. He had close ties with Canada. He made separate visits here. In fact, he actually went to the Arctic in 1987, just that visit, Mr. Speaker, because he had promised to go there, wasn't able to do it on a previous visit, and made a special attempt to do that and had succeeded. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's a special meaning to the Pope for me. He's actually only 20 days difference in age from my dad. My dad will be 93 in April, and in April 2nd, in fact. And you know, I see the two of them. They had very similar histories in Poland. Both of them were 19 when the war began. My father obviously subsequently became a soldier, and John Paul followed his faith, and that was very important. But in 2002, the military did a very special thing for me, Mr. Speaker. They allowed me, as part of a 4-person military team, to assist World Youth Days for almost an entire year in helping to plan World Youth Days and bring 800,000 people to Canada. And this is a post-9/11 world as well. And you could see that all the children of, or all the youth of the world came, and they weren't just Catholic, Mr. Speaker. They were of all different faiths, and it was huge. It was important to see the numbers of different faiths that came here. Now, as a Canadian soldier at the time of Polish immigrant parents from the Parkdale area of Toronto and St. Casimir's Polish Catholic parish, this was a massive honor for me personally, and a huge responsibility to get it right and ensure that those close to 1 million people from around the world who could arrive here and celebrate that with Pope John Paul II were able to do so safely and to be able to celebrate with all the other youth of the world. And the atmosphere, Mr. Speaker, was absolutely electric. To have the honor of being so close to the Pope, as close in fact I am as to the member for Brampton West right now many times, it was something that was inspiring to be able to talk to him, to be able to hold his hand, to be able to have that conversation with him. In fact, in Polish was something that was inspiring to me. And the kids that he was able to inspire. The motto, and what the church often says, correction, what the Pope often said was, you are the salt and you are the light. And he referred to the youth as being those. And they reacted to those. And be not afraid was something that he repeated quite frequently on the stage. And what he said to them is, quote, "You are young and a pope is old. 82 or 83 years of life is not the same as 22 or 23. But the Pope still fully identifies with your hopes and aspirations. I have seen enough evidence to be unshakably convinced that no difficulty, no fear is so great that it can completely suffocate the hope that springs eternal in the hearts of the young. You are our hope. The young are our hope." Unquote. It should be noted, Mr. Speaker, that the Canadian World Youth Day was the last one that he attended. And he was the originator of World Youth Days, which does happen every year in Rome, but every 4 years in a different country around the world. And having stood mere feet from His Holiness at that time, I could see his courage. I can see the incredible suffering in his eyes, because he was so pushed down by the serious illness that he had. Right, Mr. Speaker, that he had. That it was important that all of the members know that he lived his life as he spoke it. He showed nothing but courage by sitting there, by suffering as he did, to make sure that he came to Toronto, to make sure that he came here for the youth, to make sure that he inspired those young people, was absolutely monumental. And Mr. Speaker, I came away absolutely inspired having met Papa. Mr. Speaker, the Pope was a brilliant man who reached out to millions of people beyond the borders of the Church. By supporting this bill, we show all Canadians that we have not forgotten this great man and honor those values that he inspired in us all. He was a man who traveled with a staff in his hand and wore the shoes of the fisherman. He was a man who brought hope, peace, and comfort to so many all around the world. He was a man who, with his words, through his deeds, and with his faith, Mr. Speaker, brought us all together with his message of hope. He's a man who will be remembered long after the rest of us have been forgotten, and he was a man that made this earth a more human place for us all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.